So for a period of about 7 or 8 years, I was I was running a bed and breakfast. I was teaching singing, and I also had a operatic dinner theater over on Church Street called Gatsby's Restaurant. So for 4 years, I produced opera 2 or 3 times a week for all of the wonderful patrons that came in. Local residents supported us tremendously, and especially on Gay Pride Day, when the place was packed and we put on special performances. I produced an opera that has always been a favorite of mine, the Menotti opera called Amal and the Night Visitors. All the concerts I put on were primarily for my students so that they could get some experience. 50th anniversary of this wonderful Christmas opera, Amal, 2001. It came 2 months after 9/11. And 9/11 affected audiences throughout the city, I'm sure. And it was fairly well attended, but it was a success on many other levels. Also in 1992, I happened to have in my studio 7 fabulous young singers whose average age was 19. These students, their voices fit the bill for Mozart's Don Giovanni. We did it, and the soprano, who has now become a famous singer, Ottilie Graham, was the force that sort of pushed me a lot to do it. She went to Rogers, and Rogers agreed to produce a documentary which won all kinds of awards for this production. And so we had a documentary and a 3-hour video that Rogers paid for at their expense. It was fabulous. Took 3 or 4 or 5 months of our lives to put on this, young kids, and it was a huge success. And I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records for the youngest adult cast ever to sing Mozart's Don Giovanni. This was one of the highlights of my teaching career and just my life in general, because it's such a favorite opera of mine. My house, 14 rooms, were full of people involved with the TIFF celebration. In 2001, on the morning of 9/11, I'm sitting in the kitchen sort of supervising breakfast preparation. My son calls me, who lived in New York at the time, and he said, "Dad, they just blew up the trade towers." And I said, "Wow, were you affected?" He said, "No, I live way up north." So I said, interesting. When that news broke through my houses, everyone realized that they wouldn't be able to leave the bed and breakfast. They had to stay there because all the airports in the world were closed down. So I had all of these TIFF, I wouldn't say unhappy TIFF, but sort of unsettled TIFF people staying for 2 or 3 or 4 days. And that was cool, but the aftermath of 9/11, especially for the people in my industry, the bed and breakfast business, or tourism in general, suffered a tremendous blow. Then along came SARS. The combination of 9/11 and then a year or so, maybe a year later, I had SARS to deal with. So the combination of those 2 events sort of really put a big damper on this real estate holding that I had, because I had a certain debt service that was very difficult to meet. And in these last 40 years, I've been a voice teacher, a sometimes singer, but mainly a teacher and a producer of events involving my students. And quite a few times, even here at PAL, I've produced concerts around Christmas time. Just recently we did one, and have done 4 or 5 of them here at PAL, and it's been a wonderful experience. In fact, being accepted into residency here at PAL was probably one of the most wonderful things that I've ever experienced. I'm so happy to be here.